Hi everyone! Today's video is going to be how to make a scrunchie, whether it's sized for you or your doll. This one here is smaller and I sized it for a doll. You could put in their hair or wear around their wrist. And this one is for you to use. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger. So first, what will you need? Well, I made a little list. And you can pause the video right here so you can get what you need. So you'll need a fabric of your choice, which can be anything really. I've used velvet, knit, cotton, satin, anything that you want as long as you're comfortable working with it. Fabric scissors, because paper scissors don't cut fabric. Elastic, I've used 3/8 inch and I've also used smaller than that, like 1/8, but 1/8 I find a little harder to sew, so if you want to go to 1/4 or half, that's fine. I find the 3/8 inside here is good, especially if you have a bit of thicker hair. It gives you a better hold. It's a little tighter. For a doll size, you can do half or less. Also need a sewing machine and thread for this tutorial. It's super easy, so even if you're a novice, a beginner, you can do it. And you'll need a cutting mat or a meter stick just so you can measure out the pieces. I have my trusty cutting mat on my table and I will show you your first step. So let's get the fabric. Today I'm going to use this nice sheer sucker fabric I got as a remnant at Hobby Lobby. So I'm going to lay it out for you to show you the size that you will need for a doll scrunchie and for a human size scrunchie. Okay, I cut out the doll size one. Now, what's great about this is that it does not have to be exact. I made this about 21 inches long by 3 inches tall, but as you can see, it's more like 3.5 inches tall. It's nothing to worry about if you cut it a little wonky or it's not very straight, because you can just sew it straight. Now I'm going to cut the adult size one, which I like to make them 31. I like to make the adult size scrunchies go from 36 to 10, which would make it 26 inches long. And again, if your fabric, you lay it out and it hits like the 7 kind of thing, cut it, use it. Don't waste the fabric, because the length of the scrunchie isn't going to affect it that much. So now you're ready for sewing. So what we're going to do is hem one side by folding the edge down. About 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch is good. And then fold your rectangle in half, right sides together. And then you're going to straight stitch the seam down all the way. So fold the end over, fold it in half, and straight stitch down. So I'm going to go do that and I'll come back to show you. The elastic I use, I got on Etsy from a seller, and it is 5/8 an inch, I believe, so a little bit over 1/2 inch. If you don't have that, it's okay. Use 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. You can even use an 1/8. It's just the 1/8 gets a little harder to sew because it's so small. But for the doll size scrunchie, you need about 4.5 to 5 inches of elastic, and for the human size, 7 to 8. Anywhere in that margin, because you're going to have a seam allowance when you sew. So let me go cut them. So I have my flexi tape measure. So I just measure it. If you want to give yourself a little extra just for seam allowances, that's fine. So I'm going to put it right here at like 4 7/4 for the doll. And then for the human size, I'm going to do about 7.5. And now the next step is turning the tubes around. So I use hemostats. Makes it a lot easier than doing it by hand. I highly recommend that you invest in some hemostats if you want to sew these. They're relatively inexpensive. You can find them at Harbor Freight, Walmart. I got a nice pack of them on Amazon for real cheap because they were refurbished. So let me get the hemostats and I'll show you what they look like. The ones I have are big. I have even bigger ones. So what you're going to do with hemostats is you're going to go in one side of the tube, open them inside, push a little bit of fabric in, and then pull the hemostat out to turn it over. It's a lot easier to do this than to be pushing it with your fingers or with a pencil. It just works. It makes it easy and simple. Just gotta be careful because the hemostats do have teeth, so it can rip your fabric or cause slight damage if you pull too far. Not far, but too hard, especially if it's more delicate fabric like a satin. What you can do to avoid that is put some tape on the ends, because I use hemostats and pliers when fixing dolls, so I just put some tape on the ends and it doesn't damage the vinyl. Cutting this straight because it's not even. There we go. Now I'm just going to turn around the other tube. Okay, now I'm going to take this to my straight stitching machine to show you how to put it together. Alright, here we are at our sewing machine. So I'm going to use a straight stitch to sew this at about length 3. That's good. So take the coordinating pieces, so the longer elastic goes with the longer tube. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to take your safety pin. This is crucial because if you don't, you'll never be able to feed it through. You're going to push it through the elastic so that you have a nice hold. I do it about twice so that it doesn't rip through, because if you do it too close to the end, it's going to rip right through. So I have it in there twice. Take your elastic, and on the unhemmed end, remember we hemmed one side, so it looks like that. The unhemmed end, you're going to stick your elastic in safety pin first. You're going to feed it in until you run out. So careful not to drop it. So I got to the end. Now what you're going to do is sew it down straight. What you're going to do is sew it down straight so that you put that end of elastic securely in the tube. Then just cut off your excess thread, so they tend to annoy me and get in the way. So now it's nice and secure in there. Now you're going to get the elastic to the other side. So you're going to feel around for the safety pin and start pushing the fabric through. Pushing the fabric past the safety pin. Now I see that I had cut this on the nap and the nap's showing. Obviously I wouldn't sell something like this. I would cut off the nap. But for this video I let it be. And if you're doing it for yourself, you know, it's fine because the little holes, you probably won't see them when it's all scrunched up. Just going to feed him through. There. Other side. Now you're just going to pull it out a little and pull on the sewn side already so that it comes out a little flatter, because now we're going to connect them. So make sure you don't lose the elastic. I'm going to take the safety pin out, and I'm going to sew this end of elastic to the other side like that, and try to put them in the similar position, because if you put this here, they're not really going to line up well in the next step. So I try to put them right in the middle. Remember, your seam allowance here in the elastic is about 1/4 inch, which is why I cut them a little longer, because sometimes it just varies, or sometimes you mess up and the elastic starts fraying. So I just go forward and back like 2 to 3 times, because you end up sewing over the same spot a lot. Alright, now almost done. It's connected. So now the hem side, make sure the hem is sticking in, because sometimes it comes out. You're going to stick the unhemmed side inside of the hem side. So, once more. Now you have these two sides. You're going to stick the unhemmed side inside the hemmed side. And you can line up the seams if you want, and it's all preference. And your last step is to sew it straight down. Now, just when you sew this, be careful and make sure that you're getting the back too, because sometimes I've sewn the front and the front and backs weren't aligned, so I had to do another stitch. And you don't want a lot of stitches to show, because then it's real noticeable. So now I'm going to sew this down. You only need to go forward and back. You don't have to do too much there. So this is what I mean by make sure the back is lined up, because it came out a little bit. Nothing to fear if you're keeping them for yourself. If you want to sell them or give them away, you may want to make them look a little bit better. So there you have it. A scrunchie for you and your doll. So now I'm just going to go sew the doll size one, and you can see how easy was that. It's so quick, so easy. You'll end up making millions of them like I did. And then it's wear the same one over and over. I mean, that's the way it goes. So let me make the second one. So now there you have it. 2 scrunchies. So you can match with your doll and you can make tons of them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye, y'all. Thank you.